Well, kind of a meh day so far for me. Here we are betting in the break, though, and that's the whole point of the show is you're having sort of a meh up and down day. All right, so we're going to help you get even or help you grow your bankroll here in the late games. Got a slew of late games tonight, 5 or 6 of them anyway, and then we're going to talk about some early NFL games tomorrow. Sniper West joins us. How are you, sir?
Well, so guess how much college football this guy right here watched today? I watched this much. I watched that much college football today. So it was just a crazy day. I had a lot of stuff going on. I'm, starting a business on the side, and I'm sure you can relate. Starting a business is incredibly stressful, and just so much stuff going on. I didn't even get home until about half an hour ago and get ready for the show. So, but that's cool. I mean, I follow it on the phone and everything, and I see how my plays are doing, and I'm ready for some analysis for these games here. But it's kind of disappointing you don't get to watch all the morning and afternoon games, but it's cool.
Well, I hope you have some good partners in that new business that you're starting, because it's always important to have good people to work with. All right. The big marquee game tonight in college football, I think for everybody, is probably the Army-Notre Dame game. With Indiana losing, Notre Dame with a win will move up to number 5 in the rankings, more than likely. As a Notre Dame fan, I would love that, because then they're going to get somebody like Penn State or Boise instead of Alabama. Mm-hmm. I really don't want to see Alabama in the first playoff game with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's history with Alabama is not good. I have a premium play on this game, but I have a couple things that I just want to point out. These are 2 of the top 5 scoring defenses in the country. I believe they're 2-3 or 3-4, something like that, allowing something like 10 to 11 points a game each. Now, Army's strength of schedule compared to Notre Dame's, I don't know if they're that different. Notre Dame has played some better teams, but then you look at the losses that those teams took later. Notre Dame has the terrible loss to NIU, Northern Illinois, to the Huskies there in like the 3rd game of the season when the second game of the season, quarterback was still getting his legs underneath him and figuring out the Notre Dame offense. And they just had a terrible time on 3rd down in that game and just couldn't get out of their own way. So just keeping that in mind, Wes, you got any more thoughts on Notre Dame Army?
Well, my biggest thought that not too many people are talking about is this game is at Yankee Stadium.
Right.
Right.
It's a weird place.
So it's very strange. And I would say there's no home field advantage, but Army always kind of has a home field advantage because everybody always pulls for military academies, right? And I remember you saying something. I listened to Steer the Line, the last episode of Steer the Line last night, and you were saying that Notre Dame does not, they tend not to run the score up on military academies too. So, with Notre Dame laying 14 and a hook, that may be something to consider.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of garbage on social media. People are saying, yeah, well, how did that work out for Navy?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me point out what I'm saying. If Notre Dame is comfortably ahead against a military academy, they are not going to go out of their way to run up the score. Right. That's the point that I'm making. Right. Against Navy, it all just caved in on Navy, okay? And Notre Dame almost couldn't help themselves but score against Navy. They even put in the backups against Navy and kept scoring almost by accident. Navy just had a terrible game, and they can't physically match up with Notre Dame. Army can.
Yeah. Yeah, no, both these teams too, keep in mind, they both cover. So it's kind of hard to put your finger on it because they're both, if you combine both of their against the spread numbers, they're 15.
Oh, Army's is ridiculous.
Yeah. And so is Notre Dame. It seems like after that NIU loss, Notre Dame, they said, oh, okay, now it's time to get serious with the season. And, both teams are 15-4 against the number this year combined. So it's tough, and Yankee Stadium and everything. It's kind of tough to. I would lean Notre Dame, to be honest with you. I would probably buy it down to 14. I wouldn't do 14 and a hook. I'd go -120 and do -14. But there could be an offensive line advantage here for Notre Dame too. I think in the trenches, I think they're a little bit stronger up front than Army, but that's typical because Army doesn't get a lot of big recruits, right? So
right.
But tough game to handicap.
Yeah. The under went from 46 last night to 45 today. So, a point isn't huge, but it might be in this game because the two defenses we're talking about. All right, hit the games you want to hit here so people can get to the window before.
Well, actually, hey, why don't you do Vandy LSU first? Because that goes before all my games. So
right, okay. So 4:30, you got Notre Dame, and 15 minutes later, Vanderbilt at LSU. Look, this is simply a play based on my experience watching Brian Kelly in primetime games. He's not good. His record in primetime games is not good. LSU kind of looks like a paper tiger. I can't put my finger on what they do really well. There's not a lot of there with LSU. And Vandy is a tough out. And they're getting 9.5. I mean, yeah, it's on the road at LSU. I get it. But Vanderbilt has been a giant killer all season long. And I would buy that up to 10 and take my chances with Vanderbilt.
Yeah. So, first of all, nice reference with the LSU paper tiger. Right?
Yes, thank you.
I don't know if
waiting on that all day.
I don't know if the pun was intended or not. But so Brian Kelly, yeah, he's catching a lot of heat on social media right now. He's just not a great head football coach to be on, in my opinion. Also, too, I don't know if you remember, but when he came to that, the first rally when he was going to be the head coach, he came from Your Fighting Irish too, by the way.
Yeah, no. So I've got plenty of experience watching him lose when it matters.
Yes. So he came over and they'd had that big rally. And keep in mind, Brian Kelly is from Connecticut, and he came out and
put on the Southern accent.
He had the Southern draws. I haven't even won all my games yet. Like where'd that come from, right?
Like he's a politician, right?
Yeah, right.
Weird.
Playing to the crowd. But I kind of like Vandy too. It's a little scary because the line is going toward LSU. I think this line was plus 7.5 earlier this week, and now it's LSU minus 9.5. Diego Pavia, though, he's been fantastic this year. Great quarterback. Vandy is 7-3 against the number. Vandy has revenge because LSU has won the last 4 meetings in a row. A little scary with the line movement, but if I had to play it, I would take Vandy plus the points. And yeah, I'd probably buy it up to 10 as well.
Yeah, and so, I mean, they're kind of giving you the public is kind of giving the Sharks a gift by pushing this line in the direction that they are. Yeah. Because all of a sudden you can, with buying a half a point, which is going to cost you, I don't know, 15% on the VIG, 10% on the VIG, and you get it up to 10 with a team that has beaten a couple of very notable teams and has hung with all the others. I don't know. 10 points just seems like a lot. That's just me. All right, hit your late games.
Yeah, completely agree with that. For a team that beat Alabama this year, 10 points is a lot to get, right? So, yeah, I'm going to hit the 3 late games. I'm going to go UCLA plus 4.5 over USC. So, USC is 5, and keep in mind, this is right in my backyard. I live in LA, so, I've watched both these teams all year long. So, we get USC, who's 5-5. We get UCLA, who's 4-6. UCLA, they've been much, much better the second half of the year. If you remember the first half of the year, they looked terrible. Ethan Garbers has picked it up. He's been playing pretty well for the Bruins. The Trojans, disappointing season, right? Lincoln Riley, I don't know what the future there is going to be, but I mean, they were supposed to be a lot better than they were.
Yeah.
I like UCLA to hang tough here. I would not be surprised if they went out right. I am going to take UCLA. I'm putting the 4.5 in my back pocket, and that is what I like here. I think, is that in the Rose Bowl? That's at home in UCLA, right? Yeah. So I like UCLA. And
by the way, UCLA has no home field advantage.
They do not. That will be full of Trojan fans. I mean, they could be playing the University of Connecticut, and they might be outnumbered as far as fans go.
I saw a Notre Dame game there, like when my wife and I first started dating. So it's like 20 years ago. It was Notre Dame at the Rose Bowl at UCLA, and the Notre Dame fans. It was like 2/3 Notre Dame fans.
Yeah. Oh, well, and that place holds 100,000 people too. Actually, both those stadiums do. The Coliseum and the Rose Bowl both hold 100,000. So, but there's probably only like 20,000 there, and of the 20,000, 90% of them are non-Bruin fans. So it's kind of
why you would build a college football stadium not on the campus makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah,
well, I think got to be able to walk to the game.
Well, I think it was mainly just for they call it the Rose Bowl. I think it was just for the Rose Bowl. I don't think they foresaw UCLA playing there, but UCLA kind of just took advantage of, a vacant building that's vacant in the year except for the Rose Bowl, right? So I think that's kind of what happened. Anyway, I'm going to move on. So I like Air Force plus the points over Nevada. So they are plus 2.5 right now. I got them plus 3 earlier in the week. So if you want to buy it up to 3, you can. You probably have to pay about minus 120 if you do so. This is a crappy game. It's a terrible game. But sometimes you get value in crappy games, right? Both these teams are trending in opposite directions. Air Force has been playing better as of late, and they've won two games in a row. The Wolfpack are actually 2-4 at home, so I would not be surprised if Air Force actually wins this game. And I think Air Force is the play here. I'm going to take my 3 that I already bet earlier in the week, and that's what I like in that game. As it relates to Colorado State and Fresno State, I like Colorado State here. Okay, so Colorado State 7-3, and what's funny is they're also 7-3 against the number too. They're playing a lot better than the Bulldogs. Bulldogs are 3-8, and they're laying points, right? So Fresno State, they have a good running game. Rams are catching a field goal here, and I have to roll with them. I just think if you're going to get 3 with a team you think can win the game, you got to take the 3 every single time. So I'm going to take Colorado State plus the 3 and put those points in my back pocket. And I think all 3 of those plays are really good, to be honest with you. I feel really good about all of them.
So speaking of crappy games, the Wyoming Cowboys, who I like Wyoming as a state. I'm a big fan of the Longmire show and all the Longmire books. I actually bought a Wyoming Cowboys T-shirt a number of years ago because the Wyoming had come out with a advertising campaign, more people to that college, and the campaign was called "The World Needs More Cowboys," and they were showing the diversity of the student body. So they had a young Asian guy in the engineering department, obviously, and he's got a cowboy hat on, and he says, "I'm a cowboy." And they had a African American woman, and she says, "I'm a cowboy." And then there was a Hawaiian guy, and he says, "I'm a cowboy." So they were showcasing the diversity of the student body, and a professor at Wyoming wrote an op-ed that ran in the New York Times attacking the program, saying it was wrong and it was Cowboys, were bad and they murdered Native Americans and we shouldn't be proud to be Cowboys. Nobody should be proud to be a cowboy. And it just made me mad. So I actually wrote a note to the dean of the school and said, "Keep up the advertising. I'm buying a T-shirt and I don't even know where your school is."
There you go.
And
what's funny? I saw that commercial too. What's funny? They all put those cowboy hats on and they did the Brian Kelly. They said, "We haven't even won all our games yet."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, very good. Glad nice reference. That and Paper Tigers on the show tonight so far. Hey, speaking of crappy games, so you've got Wyoming. They are playing in Laramie, which, by the way, Laramie, fun fact, is the highest altitude sports stadium in the country at 7,500 feet.
Yes.
So the air is thin. And if you've ever been to Wyoming, when the wind blows there, it's something. They're expecting up to 30-mile-an-hour gusts in that stadium. And it is blowing across the stadium. So it's not blowing end zone to end zone. It's blowing across. So kicking, throwing, all going to be difficult. So this time of year, I like weather factors in games. That's one of the reasons why I like Boston College. It was supposed to rain all day today in that game, and it did. And then you've got the high wind in this game that kicked off at 4 o'clock. So I jumped on the under. Just saying, folks, this time of year, check your weather report. There is a site, just type into your browser NFL weather, and there's multiple sites that track all the weather for NFL games. Same thing, college football weather. There's multiple sites that track all the weather for college football games. And with this, you could make a really dumb mistake this time of year by betting on a game and not checking the weather.
Yeah. Also to Ashton Jeanty, right? The Boise State running back, he's only got a, limited amount of time left playing for the program. So they are trying to get him as many yards as he can. He's not going to be able to catch Barry Sanders' record. He'll probably fall maybe 300-400 yards short, but he's probably going to win the Heisman, and they're probably going to go to him a lot tonight, especially with a win like that. So if you can find any Jeanty over props, it might be worth a lot.
Yeah, you might still be able to get some decent juice and live betting on some of those things. All right, let's talk about the NFL tomorrow. Honestly, it's a crappy slate of games. There's nothing that I'm really. And then Thanksgiving, yuck. Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Giants Cowboys. It's the DeVito. What's the Cowboys backup? Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush. Yes.
DeVito and Cooper Rush. It sounds like they should be in a bad movie. Not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Yuck.
The Italians versus the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a lousy slate of games. But there are some things to talk about tomorrow. You want to take first stab?
Well, I have a bunch of thoughts on. I have some premium plays, but I'll tell you what I like here. I'm going to plug my nose here. I'm taking Carolina. I'm taking the points with Carolina over.
Oh, that's amazing!
Yeah,
because I want to give you a stat that I think is interesting in this game. By the way, I have not decided on any of my premium plays yet because I just don't love the slate, and I'm up and down and back and forth on some of these. But Kansas City average winning margin is only 4.9 points on the season. They've been behind in almost every single game, and their offense stats are not good.
Nope.
So, and then in the last 3 games, Carolina's 2-3, and they've played pretty well. It's almost looks like that quarterback might be coming around.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So, kind of just like Anthony Richardson, right? He got to hold the clipboard for a couple of games, and all of a sudden he came back and he had a really good game last week, right? So maybe they just needed a little time to regroup and watch from the sideline. I remember years ago, you probably remember this too, Loud. You drafted your first number one, the quarterback number 1 overall. You didn't even play him the first year. You're like, nope, they're going to sit on the sideline and learn. And then the next year they finally start, like Carson Palmer, prime example, right? So, but I like the Panthers here. So it's very ugly, but like you said, so the Chiefs offense, it's not very good, but here's the deal. The public doesn't know that. The public doesn't dive into the numbers like you and I do, right? They just think, oh, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to throw for 450 yards and 7 touchdowns tomorrow. It's not.
And Carolina's terrible. Carolina sucks, right?
They do. But they have won 2 straight. They've been competitive. They are playing.
And they're off a bye.
And they are, and they are home.
And they're at home.
And Kansas City, why would Kansas City care about Carolina? They don't care about them. Here's the scary thing is they're off the loss to the Bills. That's what scares me a little bit. But I still like Carolina. I'm going to take the 11 points. You're going to give me 11 points against a team that is only winning by 4 points a game. I'm going to take it every time, right?
Yeah.
So in regards to, we talked about the Buccaneers and Giants just because we were talking about the Giants. So, Tommy Pastrami, Tommy Salami, Tommy Lasagna, Tommy Cutlets, whatever you want to call him. I like all those Italian nicknames. In fact, it makes me kind of hungry. Doesn't he own he owns like an Italian joint right outside the stadium or like within a mile of the stadium, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how could a guy named Tommy DeVito not own an Italian joint a mile away from MetLife? But so the Bucks are 4-6, the Giants are 2-8, but the Giants, they haven't won a game at home all year. They're 0-5, so I think they're going to get up here. Remember, this Bucks defense is terrible. They give up 400 yards a game. They give up 6 yards of play, 5 yards per rush. So the Giants are going to be able to score. It's a little scary, though, because the line did come down. It was 41.5. It's down to 40.5 now, but I just think that's because of the, Tommy DeVito news. Danny Dimes is gone. And I like to call him Danny Pesos, not Danny Dimes. But
you should call him Danny Golden Sombrero.
Yeah. Well, luckily I don't have the golden sombrero.
There you go. Not today.
Just so you're the audience know, a golden sombrero is when you go over. You go over 2, over 3, over 4 on a day. You get to wear the golden sombrero. It's not a very good thing.
No.
But Tampa's offense is good too. They can put up the point. I mean, Tampa, they can get to 30 by themselves.
I thought that they had a game when they had just lost Godwin and Evans.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, their offense is dead. Nope. They ran the ball very effectively, screen passes, and they still won the game and covered. I forget against who it was against, but I was watching that game and I'm like, boy, I'm glad I didn't bet what I was thinking.
Right.
And sometimes the best thing is bets that you didn't make.
That's true. Well, what about you? What do you like? What games do you like?
Well, like I said, I haven't made any premium plays yet, so I don't want to give a lot away, but I will point out another interesting stat. The Detroit Lions, remember, we just said the average margin of victory for the Kansas City Chiefs is plus 4.9.
Right.
The Detroit Lions on the season, their average margin of victory, do you care to guess?
I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
Plus 15.9.
Yeah, they put the foot on the gas. That's for sure.
Last 3 games, plus 19.7.
Yes.
Last game, plus 46. At home, they're plus 19.8 on the season.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They're just rolling people. Now, away, they're only plus 12.
Yeah.
But still, their average winning, the next closest team to them is Buffalo at 9.6.
This is very true.
I mean, they're just massively above the winning percentage of almost every team in the NFL. So if you just trust the Lions on their average winning percentage and it keeps getting bigger, it's like they're just toying with teams, Wes.
Yeah. So my thought about this game, I don't really have a lean either way, but I would say just be careful with Detroit. Like I could see Indy maybe covering, and I'll tell you why. Because
Anthony Richardson.
Yes, he is playing well, but they're on the short week. So they're playing Thursday on Thanksgiving. So I can kind of see Dan Campbell. Okay, hey, let's say they're up 10, they're up 14 or something. It's the fourth quarter. Hey, let's kind of take our foot off the gas. We got to play on Thursday. We don't need to go all out. Let's, take golf off the field type of thing. Maybe they don't quite put their foot on the gas this time, just because they're playing on Thursday. That's my thought.
Yeah, they got the Bears on Thanksgiving. The early game is always at 9:30. And then the next 2 games, I mean, New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys, Dolphins, Packers, yuck. I mean, it's just not a great Thanksgiving slate. I'll sleep through that midday game anyway, because I don't know about you, but we do the like 2 in-the-afternoon kind of midday meal Thanksgiving thing. So you can kind of, scarf at 2, take a nap, get up, have a couple adult beverages, and then like 8 o'clock at night, you're eating again. So, anytime I can eat a full meal twice in one day, I'm down.
So yeah, no, my family does that too. I try to coordinate it so we eat right at half. Everything's being served at halftime of the Cowboy game. That way, I get a good plate in. Maybe 5 minutes into the third quarter, I'm done eating, and then I can kind of cruise through that game, and then maybe get some dessert for the night game and fall asleep early. We'll see.
Denver Broncos at the Raiders. By the way, another NFL team that has no home field advantage. There's just none in Vegas, which is really sad because the Oakland Raiders had a fantastic home field advantage.
Yes.
And now they just have none. It's this generic stadium. It's half or more fans of the other team because it's people visiting Vegas, and they get the tickets from the casinos and hotels. It's just silly.
The problem is the Raiders moved to a city where everybody wants to go.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right. Oh, by the way, Meadowlands story. I was there to see a game once, and I was at a hotel that was literally across the street from the stadium. And I was walking past the front desk to go to the game, and the guy at the front desk goes, sir. And I said, yeah. And he goes, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to walk across to the game, and then I'm going to walk back when the game's over. It's just right there. And he goes, no, please don't. Please don't do that. We'll give you a complimentary ride. We'd like to see you come back to the hotel. And I'm like, really? I mean, if you'd ever been to the neighborhood around the Oakland Coliseum, that is a place you do not walk around.
Wow.
Ever. It was a bad neighborhood. But
was this the old Giant Stadium?
No,
I know it was
just a few years ago at Meadowlands.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think they were right next to each other anyway, so same neighborhood, I would guess.
Anyway, just kind of crazy. By the way, I don't trust the Raiders at all. So if I was going to make a pick on that Denver Raiders game, Bo Nix is playing great. Denver's defense is so good. I don't know if the Raiders will score.
So, I have some thoughts here. So, a couple interesting things. First of all, Max Crosby, he has an injured ankle, and he has not had a sack in 2 games. So, I think he's hobbling. He's just kind of playing through because he wants to play for his team, but he probably shouldn't be playing, number one. Number two, so last year, these 2 teams split the season series. Broncos won 1 game. The Raiders won 1 game. But this is a crazy stat. You won't even believe this, Loud. The 8 games before that, okay, date from 2022, further past than that, the Raiders won 8 in a row. The Raiders beat the Broncos 8 straight times before last year. So that revenge is still there. And Bo Nix doesn't know about that because he's a rookie. I get it. But all the guys that have been there and had to endure that, and Sean Payton and management, they're going to be in Bo Nix's ear all week saying, hey, these guys beat us 8 in a row before last year. We're going to, for the foreseeable future, they are going to want to beat up on the Raiders.
And by the way, the Broncos and the Raiders hate each other.
Yes. And that's why I can't believe they lost 8 in a row to the Raiders. And the Raiders haven't been that good. So it's just surprising to me.
It's a fluky number. All right. 25, 26 minutes in. We're good, guys. This has been Betting in the Break, where we try to make you whole or grow your bankroll in the late games. We'll be back tomorrow with Tom Macrina, a.k.a. Rye Cape, will join us along with our book manager friend Scott from Little Creek Casino Sportsbook right here near me in the great Pacific Northwest. He is Sniper West. We're going to have a big announcement next week, folks, so make sure you tune into the show. Thanks for being here. That's Betting in the Break. Until next time.